Hi and welcome to Data 7 Embroidery products. In this video I'm going to walk you through the basics of point editing, navigation, inserting, searching, and I'll be using the working with the Data 7 quick condensed format to show you some elements of how easy and powerful that is, and also point editing with expanded formats, and what I mean by expanded is every single stitch, so the stitch the design format that you'll use and convert to your native embroidery machines format. I'm going to assume you have viewed the how to digitize column stitches video in this example, as I'm going to use the design we created in that video. So I'm going to open that file. It's in my recent files and it's ABC quick condensed format. And as you can see, it's quick condensed, which is indicated by the crosses for the condensed stitch points instead of dots black. So I'm just going to adjust this screen for the moment. So the first thing I'm going to do is jump straight into point edit, which is this icon here, or I can click the right mouse button to bring the context menu up and go into point edit, or I can go into stitch point edit or F9. As you become more familiar with the EDS facility, you'll probably use the F9. So what that gives me in this basic video is it gives me the selection box, which I can hover over stitch points here or multiple stitch points, and it'll pick up the first stitch point in that design. So if I wanted to edit this point of this letter B, I'll highlight it there, and it's picked that up. Incidentally, what you can also see is under the help you have these three items that are small help windows while you're using either point, block or digitizing. So I'm going to just show the point editing design help here and move that over here. Hopefully that's just in shot, and you can see some of the or most of the options that are available to you whilst you're point editing. Some items are on the toolbar, and like most facilities within the EDS, there's at least two ways to get a particular function. So it's either using the toolbar or using keys like these. So I'll be leaving the point point editing help form up there during this session to help us. And initially I'm just going to go through some navigation. So I'm going to exit the stitch editing just for the moment. I want to go back into the stitch editing, and I'm going to initially jump into the design using the keys. In this case, the home and the end keys over here, you can see it goes to the start or the end of the design. So if I press the home button, there I'm at the start of the design, which will be in the center. And I'm using the page up and page down keys to navigate through the design. You can see where it's showing the current stitch that I'm editing by this cross. If I hover over that cross, my cursor turns into a cross. It's allowing me to change it. The cross will disappear and won't show on a design in point editing if I'm on a function. So as you can see down here at the bottom of the screen, I'm on a needle down. So it doesn't show that because a needle down doesn't have a position, it is just a function. In the expanded, which I'll show later, it does have a position. So now I've gone to the next stitch, which is a run stitch, and you can see it's up here. So basic navigation, home and end to go to the end or the start of the design, and then page up and page down, or page down to go through the design, page up to go back through the design. And at each point it's showing you the length from the previous stitch. It's showing you the position of that stitch relative to the start of the design. So 151 points, or 1.5 centimeters, or 15 millimeters. Okay, so that's the basic navigation. On the toolbar we've also got some basic navigation tools here. So this will go to the next stitch. That'll jump 10 stitches forward, and this will jump 100 stitches forward, as you can see. Now these are, because we're editing a condensed design, these are stitch points. So stitch points is not every single stitch, it's an outline of the design, or columns or fills. So typically you will have a lot less stitch points in there, because you don't need it isn't a stitch for every single stitch point. It's not an expanded design. There'll be a video later specifically about condensed format and what you can do with that, but I'm going to touch on some of those functions in this video. Okay, so and we've got the go to the start and go to the end of the design as well, and we've also got a function to jump to the next colour. There's only one colour in this design, so that's not appropriate here. What we've also got is a find function, and as you can see, we can either press the F button or click the find icon, and it pops up a window of, well, what do you want to search for? So we can search for where we've got specific needle numbers, stops, which is an expanded format, needle up, needle down, needle change, colour change, condensed, so any colour change in there, it'll search for it. We can search for where there's a special stitch, where we've got a column density setting, where we've got a column fill on setting, etc. So these are all the functions we can search for. So if I just click run stitch, it'll search from the current position, which is at the end at the moment, to the next run stitch. So if I go to the start design by pressing the home button, click find, go to run stitch, and as you see, it's searched for the next run stitch there. Okay, so the next basic feature of point editing is moving stitches. So I'm going to go to, because this is condensed format, it's quite powerful, I'm going to navigate through the design and go to the top of the B, the corner. So I can keep going like that, or I can exit, go back into point editing and choose the point directly. If I want to change the stitch that I'm actually editing, I hold the control key button down and press the left mouse button, and that will pick up the nearest stitch to my stitch point, so nearest to my mouse cursor, instead of having to come out or navigate. And that's this here, look, control, there's this option here, control and left mouse click, change stitch editing, change the stitch that you're editing. So I'm going to go over to here, and simply moving it using the arrow keys, left, right, up and down, or I can move it with the mouse. Now I can press enter to redraw, or I can simply click the refresh button, or I can press F5 to redraw or refresh. And you can see straight away I can do this as many times as I want, and it's showing me exactly what it looks like. Okay, so I'm going to hold the control key down again and press the left mouse button over here on the C, and I can do the same again. And you can see the effects that it's having there. So not every stitch, as I say, in stitch condensed, in quick condensed format. It's quite a powerful tool. to chop and change how, or repair stroke fix how a design was digitized in this case. So yeah, that's let's say I'm happy with that. That's fine. Okay, the next function I'm going to show you is changing values. Now, because this is a condensed design and it's using stitch points, the design needs to know what the column density, what the stitch lengths need to be in that design. Now, those settings can either be actually in the design, or if there aren't any settings, as maybe in this design, it will be using what the default is. So I'm going to just go to the the start of the design by pressing the home button, and I'm just going to pace through a little bit to see, and indeed I've got just run and column stitches, so there are no specific column densities or stitch lengths in this particular design, so it will be taking the default. So if I just exit and go to design preferences, so what it will be using is this 4.2 points column density, or 0.42 of a millimeter, and a stitch length of 40. So 4 millimeters apart for a normal running stitch. It'll be using these defaults together with column width and fill stitch length of 10 points in the particular design. So we can check that. We can, as I say, we can check that by looking by changing the default the preferences. So what preferences means in this particular instance is if there is no specific column density set in the design, it will just use these, which it should be using 4.2. If it's got a specific column density setting in the design, it will ignore these column densities. So I'm going to change the default to 10, making the gap between the column stitches 1 millimeter instead of half, or 0.42 of a millimeter. Save, refresh, and indeed you can see it's affected the design, confirming that there isn't a stitch or column density setting in the design. So just to confirm why this is important, whether it be in the design or using the defaults, is because it's a condensed design, all of the stitch points are not recorded. It's just the condensed stitch points. And when it creates an expanded design, which is every single stitch in the design for your embroidery machine, it needs to know how to and where to place those stitches, how dense they are, what's the stitch length. And this is where condensed format is very powerful, because without redigitizing a whole design, with just one setting you can change how a design runs. So in this case, if 0.42 was too dense in a condensed design that you've either digitized yourself or you've got from a digitizer in condensed format, and let's say it had 10,000 stitches in, which took 5 minutes to embroider, by simply changing one setting in the preferences or in the design itself from 4.2 to, let's say, 6, and save, refresh, you can see it's slightly more dense now than the 10, but still slightly less dense than the 0.42. Maybe taking 1,000 stitches out, maybe taking 30 seconds, a minute off the running of the embroidery design. So saving you time and saving you money on thread, and probably in some cases making the design run a lot smoother without breaking thread, breaking needles, etc. So it's just a small insight into how powerful the condensed format can be, and how quick and easy it is to change. So I'm going to go back into preferences and set that back to the default. I'm going to refresh. Okay, so we've looked at navigating through the design so far. We've looked at moving stitches. We've looked at changing defaults to change the look of and the feel of the design. What we're going to do now is look at inserting functions, inserting colours, and also in this example I'll talk you through inserting a column density in the middle of a design, just to emphasize how that works. So I'm now going to go back into point edit. I'm going to go to the beginning of the B. So as you can see, I'm using the page up and page down keys again to go through the B there. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to insert a colour change. So you'll see down here it says needle change, and I'm going to press F5 to refresh again, and there you go, we've got an extra colour in there. I'm just going to change that colour to a green, refresh. Everything's dynamically changing. What I'm also going to do now is I'm going to insert a function, and I'm going to override the column density function that we just had a second ago in the defaults. So at the moment it's using the default with no specific setting in the design. I won't go through every single option because this is a basic video, but there'll be further videos going through specific items. Of course, if you've got any specific questions about any of these issues, please email support at data7consultancy.com. Or post a question on our Facebook page, and we'll come back to you as soon as we can. So I'm going to insert a column density. It's asking me what the density is going to be, so just to emphasize the difference, I'm going to put 10. So the column density is the gap between the column stitches here. So I'm going to say it's column density of 10. I'm going to refresh. As you can see now, the A is unaffected, because that's using the default settings under design preferences, but from where I inserted the column density change, the B and the C has changed. So I'm going to go again through the B, and there's the C. Now again using the page up and page down, what I'm going to do is insert another color change, refresh. So there we have a red colour, and what I'm going to do now is do exactly the same thing again. Insert a function. It's a column density, of which I'm going to return it back to 4.2. Refresh, and there you have it. So the A will use the default because I've got no column density set at the beginning of this design, so it's using the default preferences. The start of the B, I've increased the column density to 10, so you can see it's increased the gap. And the C, I've checked, but also put colour changes in. At the beginning of the C, I've also inserted a column density back to 4.2. So this is how powerful, again, demonstrating how powerful the Data7 quick condensed format is, and how you can change with a simple value how the design looks and sews. To reiterate the values that are being used, if I now exit, I'll just refresh the design, go back into design preferences. I'm going to make this 20. Save and refresh. So you see the 20 has only affected the A, because the A is the only design that doesn't have a specific column density in. There is a setting from B onwards, so whatever I change on the defaults in terms of column density, it won't affect B or C, because there are specific column density settings in the design for those two letters. So I'm now going to go back into point edit, And in terms of inserting functions, oh sorry, I need to go to a point in the design. So in terms of inserting functions, there are many different functions that you can use for a condensed and an expanded design. So you can insert column widths, so we can increase column widths from a certain point onwards. We can turn a column into a fill automatically. So even though the design has been digitized, or an element of the design was digitized to be a column, by simply turning column fill on, we'll turn it into a fill or a seeding stitch. I can insert needle ups. I can insert quick condensed needle changes. And specific design functions, some legacy here where we can insert a trim facility and a plique facility. We can insert a fill, so typically you would digitize it, but you could insert a fill and manually create a fill in the editing. You could effectively create a design in point editing as if you were digitizing. But if you digitize the design and you wanted to supplement that design by adding a fill, this is where you could do it. You can insert pattern fills, turn pattern fills on and off, special stitches on and off. You can insert blocks from disk or from buffer, whether you've saved them or not, to the clipboard. So there's many different functions you can insert here. Not all of them I'm going to go into in this basics video. Okay, so that's about it for the navigating the design, finding specific functions, moving designs. I'll cover changing values just now. So if I'm going to go to the start of the design, I use the find function. So I'm going to find where I've set a column density. So what I did there was I pressed the home button to go to the start of the design, and this might be a fairly sizable design, so I don't want to have to go thumbing my way all through the design to find a column density. I can search for it. So I'm at the start of the design, as you can see. When I click find, click column density, and as you can see the column density is set to 10. It's found that one, and you can see that's where it is. Look, so I'm using the page up and page down. There's a column density, no cross, no editing point for a function. Go previous, which is the page up button, and you can see it's affecting the B. So I'm on column density, so I've searched for it, and then I can change the value if I wish. So it's telling me it's 10. If I wanted to put that down to a gap of 0.6 millimeters, I click OK, press F5, and you can see the B is slightly more dense than it was. So I can then go to I'm still on the column density. I can then search again for the next column density, and as you can see that's 4.2. as you remember, we added that to the C, change the value, make that 8 to increase the gap. So I'm going to press the refresh button now, F5, and you'll see the C become less dense, and the gap, meaning the gap is bigger. Okay, so we use the search facility to search for a particular function, and value to change the value of that design. So that particular function. So, but as well as inserting functions, you can insert stitches as well. Here you'll see insert run, insert column, stitch, and insert curve stitches. So we can supplement this design if we wanted to. So if I go back to the start of the design by pressing the home button, I'm going to go to in fact I'll go to the end of the design. So there's the end of the design, and there's your needle, there's the running stitch there. If I just pan out ×2, I can insert a running stitch, move it, insert another running stitch, and move it. If I also press the key 1, which isn't in our help here, if I press the number 1 on our keyboard, it does the same thing. It inserts a running stitch. Similarly, if I press 2, it will insert a column stitch. So if I press 2 and I press 2 again, if you've watched our digitizing column, you'll know what's about to happen. And I press 1 again to finish. So what I've done is I've inserted several running stitches, and then I've inserted, so there, there's a running stitch, that's a column, that's a column, that's a column, and that's a running stitch. If I press F5, you see it's actually drawn the column. If I wanted to extend it or even change how it change the angle, you can see how easy it is to embellish designs once they've been digitized, or even an expanded design. You can, if you save it as quick condensed, you can take an expanded design, save it as quick condensed. It doesn't convert it to condensed, but what it allows you to do is leverage the power of the quick condensed by supplementing the expanded design with condensed points. So assuming that the A, B and C were expanded, adding this column here would be condensed, and if I use my quick condense as my source, I can embellish and change whatever I need to, then convert it, save it as the quick expanded version, and I've quickly got an embellishment, a supplement to that design that I can keep going back to. Okay, so we've inserted a column there, and as well as inserting, we can of course delete. So if I didn't want that, if I go back to this point, delete, 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 and I'm just pressing the delete button to delete that stitch, or I can click the delete icon here. Delete that last column stitch, press F5 to redraw, and as you can see it's now gone. So if I can go back to here, here and here, press F5 again, and the design is back to how it was. So I'm just going to fit the screen again, and indeed the same with a stitch, I can do the same thing with a function. So go to the home, go back to the start of the design, find my column density, which is my first one, which is set to 6, which is the beginning of the B. Still notice the A, it's got a column density of about I think it was 10 we set on the design preferences, because that's not got a specific density set. There's your column density. I'm now going to click press the del button. I've removed the column density. So you're probably one step ahead of me. What I'm expecting to see when I press the F5 redraw button is the B to have the same density as the A. And indeed it does, because I've removed the column density setting of the B, so that's now using the system's preferences. But I've left the C in there. And the same for colour. There's a needle, I've just gone page up, and there's a needle change which was just before the column density. If I delete that and press F5, now the A and the B are the same colour. Okay, for the latter part of the this basics video, what I've done is I've loaded the original design back up without all the colour changes and column density changes. You'll notice that the stitches are still quite sparse. So if you remember, I set the preferences to be a column density of 20, not 10. So I need to set that back to 20, or that sorry, 4.2, or that will affect every condensed design that I load that doesn't have a specific column density in. Press F5 to refresh, and okay, we've got the design back to how it was. So in this next section, quickly, I'm going to just slightly touch on block editing, which is largely a graphical driven block editing facility, i.e. Marking blocks of design and moving them or deleting them, or resizing them indeed, and so it compensates for stitches if they're quick condensed format. But what you can also do is manually mark start and end blocks of designs where you can't easily using a square or a rectangle highlight a part of the design you want to move or delete. So back into point edit, go to the start of the design by pressing the home button, and I'm going to use the B, although I could easily put a rectangular box over the B. I'm just going to go to the B itself here, and using these features here to mark the start or the end of a block, I'm just going to press the S button. You'll notice an S appear at the bottom, which is denoting this stitch represents the start of a block. Or I could use the start block marker here. It basically toggles it on and off, and so does the E or the end. So I'm going to mark that part of the B as the start. I'm going to thumb my way through. So again, this is more of a manual way of marking blocks for editing, and I'll go to what I believe to be the end of the B, which is here. This is the last stitch, the last run stitch. I'm going to press the end. So basically, that has marked the B as a block. I put a start block marker at the beginning of the B and one at the end. So that enables me now to modify. When I use the modify or delete block or move block, I can change that B. So this is not a block editing video, but what I will quickly do is just show you the result of that. So because that B is marked as a block, if I then go into right mouse button for the context menu button and modify block selection, or edit, modify block, or duplicate block, or reverse block selection, or indeed write it to disk, deselect or delete the block, it will just be looking at the B. So just to demonstrate that, modify block selection. Yeah, I'm now in block editing. Again, there'll be a specific video about the basics of block editing and more detailed. Because the B is now marked as a block with my S and E's on my start and my ends, I can now move that. Press enter to redraw, and you see quite simply it's moved the B. So again, right click, modify block selection. I can rotate it, I can flip it, I can make it wider, and I can make it wider with either these keys, these toolbars, or using the keyboard. And again, if I go into help, there is a block editing help key, help that tells you what keyboard shortcuts you can use. So again, just demonstrating very quickly the power of the condensed format. Because it's condensed and it's stitch points, which means it calculates the expanded stitches, it will compensate very quickly. So if I pick up a corner, so you can see that it's not fixed in terms of the X and Y axes. If I wanted to, I can click this button to fix it. Again, more further details in the block editing video. So if I expand the X or the X or the Y opposite also expands to keep the ratio locked. So if I move it over here, so you see now the B is a lot bigger. This is actual size, but you'll notice it's also compensated for the stitches in terms of the column. The column density is still the same, it's just increased the size of the design. Again, very quickly going into the design preferences, if I were to change that, because there are no specific column density settings in the video, you can see how it's changed it, but that would be too gappy. So I'm going to put that back to 4.2 and refresh. I can again modify the block selection, and I can rotate it. If I rotate it minus or rotate it plus, it does it automatically. There it is. If I modify that block again, and I can flip it on the Y. I can flip it on the X. I can flip it on the X and the Y. I can, of course, I can move it to wherever I want. And the amount of movements are set here. So rotating is at the moment 1 degree at a time. I can actually increase those steps here. So now it's doing 10 degrees at a time. Okay, so just a quick insight into block editing. The last thing I'll show is if I delete the block section, now the B is gone. So yeah, that will be covered in more detail. I'm now going to open the original design. No, I'm not going to save that. So there we have our A, B and C back. Okay, so the last point I'll show, now I've got the original design back in the quick condensed format, but you can do it in the quick expanded or the expanded format as well. Is you can insert a design. Now I've covered this how to merge design. There's already a video about how to merge designs more automatically, but what I can do is if I go back into point edit, I go to the end of the design, go back to the run stitch, go back to just before the needle up, and go to a run stitch. So I'm basically at the end of the ABC before the needle up. I then go to insert a design. I can insert this design, and it's drawn this design. So I'll just come out of point editing now and click fit. So you can see that it's actually inserted the design into another design into our original ABC design. Now where this differs from the automated or semi-automatic merge design facility, which is here, so we can merge at the start and the end, you can actually insert another design at any point in an existing design. That's where it differs. The semi-automated merge will place a design right at the start or the end of the already on screen design. This you can put it in the middle of a design if you wish. And when you insert a design, it actually automatically marks that design as a block. So therefore, again, I think you're one step ahead of me. It allows you to move the design you've just inserted separate to the design that was on screen. We can test that by modifying block, move this design down here, press the enter key to redraw, and indeed if I fit, you can see that the A, B, C has stayed where it is, and it's inserted the design below the A, B, C, D. Okay, so we're into about 40 minutes now of this basic video. So what I will conclude is going back to the A, B, C, D, save it as an expanded design, and quickly showing you editing within an expanded design. Basically the same as a condensed design without the power of the condensed. So I'm going to open the my original design, my working design I've been using during this session. I'm going to save it as expanded to my designs folder. Okay, so it's now quick expanded. I'm going to refresh and you can see I have my stitch points. Now just to reiterate and verify, if I change the preferences to 20, save and refresh, you'll notice it's made absolutely no difference. That's because that only affects condensed designs, quick condensed designs, not expanded designs. As you save it from condensed to expanded, that's when your column densities are affected. So I'll put that back to default for later videos. Okay, so we have our expanded design. So we've got virtually parking any condensed functions, the same editing facilities available to us. So I won't go through all of them. I'll just show the obvious. So the point editing, the navigation. Now you'll see it's going through every single stitch point as I went to the home button, and I'm now thumbing my way through. It's not stitch points, these are every stitch recorded which your embroidery machine needs. I can move stitches as I did before. I can move that stitch over there, refresh. I can insert a color change at any point. I can use the control key and press the left mouse button to edit, to pick up a stitch that I want to edit over here. Insert another color change. You can see what's happening there. Column densities and stitch lengths will not be affected, or do not affect expanded designs. Only quick condensed designs they are affected. You won't find any values in here, but as I mentioned earlier, you could take this design and embellish it, save it as a quick expanded. It will not convert the expanded to condensed, it just saves it as a quick condensed format. So then I can add column densities and columns and fills. It won't affect any expanded stitches, the stitches that I'm editing at the moment, but it will only affect condensed. So just to reiterate that point, I'm going to press, as I did before, it's an expanded design currently, QEP, but I'm going to put a running stitch, a condensed, another condensed, and then a running stitch there. You'll see how it's drew the condensed format for me if I just fit. If I carry on and save it as quick expanded, again it will take this condensed stitch points and convert them automatically to expanded, so you can't change them. If I was to now save this as a quick condensed format, not an expanded format, it'll save my expanded stitches together with my condensed stitches, allow me to then go in and change densities if I want to do. So you can mix, it's quite powerful, you can mix condensed and expanded together and embellish. We can of course delete stitches. So I'm just pressing the delete button here and refreshing. You can see half of the, some of the stitches have been deleted. I can insert designs. I can search for functions like color changes, or I can, as you can see, I've inserted the colors now, color changes. So I'm pressing the move to the next color automatically. Where editing a an expanded design may be particularly helpful is you might have an already designed, an old design or a design that's been punched for you by a digitizing company. You may find that at a particular part of that design that it's breaking needles or it's breaking thread quite often. So you can navigate to the place in that design. Let's say, actually, if I zoom in, got to zoom into somewhere around the B. And I'm going to go to point edit, and let's say it was somewhere around here. Just go back, paging up to go back, and let's say some of these stitches were too close together. I could simply move them. I could shorten them, or indeed I could delete them, therefore removing the problem. Very simple, very easy. Save, export to your desired format, and therefore you're not breaking needles or underlay or thread. thereafter. One point I forgot to mention during the editing, rather than having to keep exiting the editing facility and zooming in and zooming out, if I am moving out of shot in that window, then all I would need to do is I can press the number 5 on the numerical keypad, and what that does is redraws the design centering the stitch that you're currently editing, or the F1 key. The F1 key does the same thing. So if I was to zoom out a little bit here, sorry, I mean thumb my way through the design a little bit. So there, so if I press the F1 key, you'll see now I'm editing. It's centered the selection for me to make it easier and faster, rather than having to keep zooming in or out. There we go. So there again, whenever I press press F1, it's taking me to it's moving it's panning the design to be the center of where I'm editing the stitch point. Okay, that's basically it for this point editing basics. As you can see, the video is it's nearly an hour long now, but it is really the basics of point editing. There are a wealth of features and functions and benefits to be had by point editing. If you have any specific scenarios that you're interested in, any help on a specific design, please email us at support@data7consultancy.com, and we may even be able to create a video specifically for that subject. Okay, thank you for watching.